you can see them. Here you can see them. Nice. Okay, so welcome again from my side. No more spaghetti. Organized project with an X. I hope the title will fit actually what we are doing. Maybe really quick about me. I'm Johannes. He, him pronouns. I work with Angular since NG1. Did upgrade to NG2 when it was alpha actually as a student. But I also worked a little bit front end more or less with PHP, React, Svelte. Currently also with Astro, but for my most of the work time I'm using Angular. And in my last project I used NX. I liked it really much. And actually my last project we just moved to it. So many of the thoughts came a little bit from this. But I'm just as qualified as you are. So please, if you hear me saying something wrong, please correct me in the end. I'm not a mastermind for about everything. And I'm also sorry, especially when we go to the live coding, I'm really bad at typing because I'm learning Colmic at the moment. And this is not I will really suck at typing at the moment. Please excuse me. And also, this is like a picture of me, but I can't find the source of this. As you know who draw this picture, I just found it on my phone roll. And I can't remember where I got it from. Okay. So for the agenda, we had like a longer check-in and language stuff. So we can understand each other now. And then I'm going to try to present like a little bit flashlights into different topics. I'm going to try to be quick about it. And I hope that in the end it will kind of fall into place because it's really hard to, in this short time, to give like a whole run through everything. And then we are going to switch to live coding and we're going to try to implement a small pizza-themed app. Actually, I didn't figure out why I called it spaghetti in the first place, but pizza would be fitting. Also, we are going to get pizza and I'm quite sure we will be interrupted a little bit in coding and getting the pizza, and then maybe we can see if we want to continue, if we want to do a break, or let's see how far we are then actually maybe. So first thing, I'm going to talk a little bit about what clean code in a perspective of front-end means, or could mean maybe. Then maybe how Angular projects are supposed to be structured, following the Angular guidelines. And then we're going to talk about what NX actually is. And what tools NX offers us to keep like the structure and keep us kind of clean. And while doing that, we will kind of switch more or less to the demo and then going just into it. And yeah, I hope I try to speak. If you don't understand anything, please raise your voice. But I think it's easier if we get to talking when the code is open. And please, I actually would really be helpful if you help me while coding a little bit. And also, I want to present a small alternative, more lightweight to NX Sheriff. But yeah. Okay, so let's get started. What does clean code for front-end actually mean? Maybe I skipped around and we just go ahead and say, yeah, we use React maybe, or I heard we use Tailwind or PHP, or we rewrite everything. But this is not the thing I'm talking about. Maybe we could get even into a fist fight about this. For bigger problems, I have the clean code by Uncle Bob here, so we can look it up even. But I think there are many different ways to go to clean code. So there's one thing about technologies you use, the other thing is about habits you do as a programmer. There's like this big sheets about practices you should do, rules you have to follow, and all those are probably right and very helpful. But I think, how can I go ahead? Yeah, I think, does it work? Yes. In the end, it comes all down to values and virtues, and there's this clean code developer people that have a website where you can learn stuff about writing cleaner code for all languages, and they try to emphasize that it's all about the values, the virtues you are implying to your work, to your professionalism as a coder. So, and those 4 core values they say is evolvability, correctness, production efficiency, and continuous improvements. And maybe this is something that will help us when thinking about what we're actually trying to accomplish, and not talking about this rule, that rule, exactly how to write comments, how to format code or something like this, but more thinking about the values behind it. Yeah, maybe this. Oh, okay, I'm really actually quite fast. So just keep this in mind. There are those values, and not getting into a debate what clean code actually means in a way. So another thing often that comes into mind is we often work in bigger projects where we have to talk about domain-driven design and stuff. Often it's like it's a really big topic. So again, we could talk like years about it, but I just want you to remember what you already maybe know about this, or if you don't, then ignore it for a while. But it's in the idea about structuring again a little bit and sharing knowledge between teams and focusing on the right stuff. But also it has like an implication for the way you actually develop your applications. Often this is thought from a backend perspective or like from a systematic perspective. So, and I feel often the front-end part is a little bit missing out here. But just keep this in mind. And also this domain-driven design often goes hand in hand with the microservice architecture, where we decide what are our subdomains, find bounded contexts, put them into services that like work in different smaller microservices, often back-end driven. Maybe we can try to emphasize the micro front ends or something like this, and NX actually can help us with that, but this is not not from just a technological perspective, but also from like a mental perspective, from thinking about what we are trying to accomplish and how do we structure and split the knowledge behind this, and also our work together as a team. So this is again something we want to keep in mind for our view on NX maybe. And also some pattern I want to remind you all of, we often use in the context of domain-driven design, but actually it has not that much to do with domain-driven design, but it also falls nice into place together, where this is also some backend code. I think it's C# or something, huh? I'm not really sure. I just found it on Hacker Noon. And it's like a really common structure, the onion architecture, often called hexagonal, like a 6-sided square, where you try to layer your stuff in different aspects. Often also this is thought from a backend perspective, where you have like interact with a database and have some requests going on, and then have like a domain entity where you tackle the problems of a domain, and you often try to map this structure of the layers to the way you keep your code organized as a folder. This is only the thing I wanted to show you here, and to keep you in mind that we always try to kind of map the code structure and the mental model behind this in some meaningful way. Yeah, and so I really tried not to plague you all with all those concepts like this little mouse here. So I think I don't want to say like those are the rules that are important here, but I think it's in the end it's all about encapsulation and structuring, because if you try to encapsulate and structure your code in a meaningful way that reflects on the domain you are working in and also on the technology you're working in and the agreements of your team, then everything will kind of easier fall into place. So this is like the idea here. Yeah, so, okay, I'm actually quite fast. So now thinking about Angular projects, how would you all structure an Angular project? There's like the base guideline you can find on the Angular side. They removed it for some time. Actually, they re-edited it a little bit, those style guide. And they also emphasize on keeping your code in a meaningful, structured way, following like the features, what often can be mapped as the domain parts of your applications, the bounded contexts, and say, yeah, they say like you have to use like one core feature folder. Then for each feature you identify like a whole folder with some modules inside, some shared parts, and so it goes on. Just to remember you how you would try to structure a little bit. And yes, this is the Angular way. And then again is the question, what's keeping us when we're working with such a bigger project actually from adhering to a structure like this? So what can we do to keep it that way? And of course, there's the ahead of time compilation in Angular. The compiler, it will alert us for some more heavy mistakes we might do. For example, circular dependencies might pop up, not all of them, but it might warn you or even break the build. We also have like this concept of ng modules, where you try to bind some classes together and some services, components to one module, but actually the modules are now more or less like a dying out fate, and we are not using them anymore because they never were like a really loved citizen of the Angular landscape. And we also could just tell each other in code reviews, yeah, you're doing it wrong, do it different way. But at least for me, this is something that is not really working quite well often. And then the production release needs to happen tomorrow, and slowly it can start to degrade. Maybe if you are a good team, have a good culture, you can keep the fight longer up. But I think the most important thing is here we don't have any technology that we can rely on to keep the plans we actually did as a team, the agreements we tried to make, and we cannot keep them without any support. One solution for this would be you could create NPM packages. Many teams start to do this. I've also suffered from this. You can say, okay, here's some functionality. This is only for this domain, and we separate it to an own library. We publish it, and we use it here and there, and we can split up some shared functionality, like a shared kernel, and add it to the main apps, or if we have multiple apps. And also, this is in Korean. I didn't find a better picture, but I really find it funny because I actually can't speak any Korean, but this means dependency held in Korean, but also maybe you can directly see what it means. Because if you start to use many of those packages and have a big app and try to split it in many different sections, then you get to the problem that, for example, here our hello app, for example, or hello library is using the foo library, which is again using this crux library, and they are in different versions. So the bus library is using it in a different version than the foo library. This might actually work. It's just JavaScript, TypeScript. It might work, but it will soon start to break, especially with Angular. You can have those singletons everywhere, and suddenly you have maybe two, or you have the different one, or I'm not sure what will happen. And so creating NPM packages often leads teams start to cut them down, and they feel like the benefit is if you cut them really small, because then it's easier to structure them, but suddenly it doesn't work anymore, then they grow together again, and you have only one big one with one shared version. And then the hassle about publishing, fetching, keeping versions is also maybe not worth the try. And also to remember, just this meme here, each of those libraries will all have their own dependencies, not only your dependencies, but also dependencies to Angular and whatever. And then the Angular version starts to shift between those packages maybe. And it's anyway, on your hard drive, you will notice all those different projects. Still, there's something you also can do with NX, just to remember. So this would be like the theory, more or less, about what I was thinking about clean code, and just to keep this in mind when we are going to talk about more of the details of what NX can actually offer. So I will skip to what is this NX thing at all. Many of you already know it maybe. They call it now, they have to redesign their website, a build system, built-in tooling and advanced CI capabilities, or they actually mean something for mono-repos, for code scaffolding, module boundary enforcement, automated updates, and then caching distributing. And I think for today, we are trying to really focus on those module boundary enforcement. And because this is the thing I really believe is the thing that will help our team to keep the agreements we had. And yeah, so what is NX? I would define it more about, apart from those buzzwords we heard, like it's many tools in one box, all of the JavaScript, TypeScript ecosystem, mainly TypeScript. JavaScript also might work a little bit. And it's also meant to use together with mono-repos. But actually, this is only the way where they're coming from, and it's perfectly normal to just don't use it with a mono-repo, because what does mono even mean? If you have one app and you want to use it, you can also say, okay, this is a mono-repo because I only have one app I'm working on. But also in this situation, NX might help you. It's based on standard technology there, so there's not that much magic around going like what it's doing, but it's relying on standard like the TypeScript configuration. It's like relying on standard tools like ESLint, and it also offers like a CLI you can use, and it has some built-in caching that can be really helpful, or without it will be really painful maybe, because you actually you will benefit more from it. And there is also like this cloud thing, caching in the cloud. It's very crazy expensive, but yeah, also a nice idea to use it maybe. And it offers some plugins for your favorite development environment like VS Code and IntelliJ and whatnot. Yeah, so this is what NX gives us. So not that much magic, it's just more relying on standard tooling for the most of it. And yeah, and they offer like some, those are the buzzwords or the domain, what's it called? Those are the nouns they use to describe their stuff. So at once we have different projects, which can be apps, libraries, and packages. We have tasks or targets, sometimes called, which is like a job you execute. We have configs that might relate to the way some target on a project is executed. And also they offer like code generators and task executors. If you ever work with the Angular CLI, you will really feel at home, because the NX team, also the core members who founded this company, they all came from the Angular team from Google, and they set up their own workshop. And so in the beginning, it was really closely focused on Angular, but up to date, it's not really that limited to Angular. And but you can use it with nearly all technology, even Java, Rust, Go, whatever you name it. But again, it's meant to use with Angular, maybe React because they have to, because the community is so big, but and Node, yeah. So JavaScript first, I think, is the thing here. Yeah, and you also have like those executors and a system of plugins that also can provide like some routines for all the other objects. And how do you interact with NX? Just by using the CLI, probably. You can, for example, call just like you would use NPM scripts, can define your own scripts that will call, like, for example, a target, test, and a project, like your products, and then you can add additional configuration. And yeah, just so you don't get confused if you have never seen this before. And NX can be used in different ways. It can be integrated in just normal applications, like you would start a new Angular application, and then you can integrate it and nothing much will change for you. You can also try to leverage more the package-based stuff when you have like a bigger application with many different apps or libraries you want to publish. You all can put them in one big NPM workspace. NPM also offers like this mono-repository capability, and use NX just as a helper here. So still each project might have their own package.json file and also those node modules, which is a little bit like the situation we had before, where each package is like living for itself, and together they hopefully are working. But NX can help with that too a little bit. And maybe the most favorite, and this is the thing I'm going to show later, is the integrated repository, where you put all the projects in one repository and also share the versions between us. So you have like this single version policy. If you install Angular there, then it will be the same Angular version for all of them. It will be the same file, TypeScript file, or JavaScript files in your node modules. So no confusion between different versions. But switching between both of them at the same time even is possible. So enough with all the theory. Let's get started, and we're going to get into and create a small workspace with with NX and see what we can see. So I hope this will now work. What's Java? Oh, okay. And let's close them. Okay, so how can you turn this on? Presentation mode. And how was the terminal? Fuck. Who can remember the shortcut for? Here it is. So I already set up a directory, but this actually might be wrong. So where are we? And I will quickly just delete the old stuff. And so we want to start with npx, and maybe I can copy it from here. It's faster. I'll create NX workspace. Create NX workspace. Did I write it wrong? At latest, or we can even skip it probably. So this is again like a script they provide to bootstrap it, and I will say yes. We want to install it. Can you read it from the size of it? Good. So and then they ask us where do we want to create a workspace. I will say it ngLeipzig 54 and go ahead. And then we will be asked about different options we can use. If we want to have some application inside, I will just pick an Angular because it's the ng meetup. And then we ask the question if we want to have this integrated mono-repository or the standalone. So standalone would mean like we have like a normal Angular workspace, also NX included, or we switch to this mono-repository thing. And application, we'll just leave it. And we ask which bundler we want to use. So this is something NX also provides us with different options for tooling. So I think you could use ESBuild with NX quite early, or also they provide Jest out of the box for your testing. So they always try to like emphasize on modern technology. And but we will use ESBuild. And any preferences, SAS, less CSS? No, it's just CSS. And server-side rendering, heck yeah, why not? Cypress Playwright, they also ask us if we want to use it. And I just will use Playwright just for... and then there comes the question about this cloud caching I was talking about. You can connect it to your CI environment even and then share computational values, but it's quite expensive if you run out. There's like a free tier, but if you want to use it for work, it will cost like 250 euros, I think, so a month. And also some minutes. We'll skip it, and it will install our dependencies, which gives me time to open my notes. So at home my network was a little bit faster. Sorry. People at home, can you still see it? So you can see the code. Yeah. Okay, so here we are, and actually we have our new NX workspace. So it will just start with a normal package JSON like you would expect from any Node project. We have Angular installed at the moment, we have an NX installed. Apart from that, not that much. Also here some Playwright stuff, Jest related stuff. So nothing fancy here. And how does this workspace now look? We have like two apps here at the moment. So like we already have like our apps we want to develop here, and also like an end-to-end testing app is like meant to be like a separate code base. So you can execute some end-to-end tests against it. We also see like there's only one node modules. Even if we run here like a separate end-to-end testing app, it's still the same. Yeah, and then we have maybe the most important file for those new to NX that defines like the way ngX is configured and working. And this is the NX.json, where we can see those targets here that I mentioned. So it's defining on how to execute some defaults for those targets, for example, for linting, for jest here for testing, and also providing the plugins and generators we have configured. For example, we said here we want to use Playwright and CSS, but this is some defaults and also some options to the caching, which we may maybe talk about later. And then each app, again, will provide like a project JSON. They changed this format in the time, and they actually are working on getting rid of this file again, but for now we have it, where we can see, okay, this is the definition of the app we are seeing here, with its name, where its sources lie, and also those targets. So for example, the build and different configuration for the build, serve, lint, test, just like you would expect from a normal Angular application. So instead of now going into our package.json or going into the Angular CLI and executing ng-test, for example, we just, based on prettier, yes, why not? We just might execute, for example, tests with nx. So for example, if we run nx, and then it was called the app, ngLeipzig test. Sorry, I'm in the wrong directory. So then it will find, sorry, my mistake, other way around. It will find the app we are talking about, finding the test, the code to execute for the test, the configuration for it, and then we'll execute it. So also there's like this other way to write it with nx run, which really feels like you write normal npm scripts for everything. So that, and maybe just to show it, there's also like one really helpful command that nx gives us, and this is nxgraph. It will open my browser, and here we can also see like all the apps and projects we have, and also their dependency that we will later use. So, but it's all. You can also like invoke some commands, run all tests, so that will go through all the apps and see which of them supports this test, and will just run it for them. So then we maybe head back to our presentation now, and also things I don't want to forget. I hope I mentioned most of them. Also, NX will provide you with migrations for versioning in versions between NX, and also if you're switching from Angular to or another framework to NX or back. And also works with Rust, Go, and Java. I also explained it. And they have like a huge pricing model, and also support publishing buildable apps, so everything works for you. And you can even define your own, like this test command. You can define your own logic that you want to run with those script and command executors. Yes. So this. So now maybe going into how to structure code, and this is something like NX always provides you with. It delivers you like a ESLint plugin, so the tool that normally would check if you mistyped something, if you have broken formatting, or break some standard ways of coding. and it will, this enforce module boundaries system will provide you with a way to configure your agreements you find as a team, and then type those in, check them in, and so you can rely on them and check them from time to time. Sometimes it gets a little bit verbose, so here you see like this example where you can actually specify, okay, you say something with this, with the source tag scope shared, for example, it can only depend on something else with the tag shared. And if we now look in our application, I hope it's fine to switch, we can see that this app we here created has this tag property where I could define, for example, this is like a app, or I could say whatever I want, but using this. How does it work? Yes, sorry, wrong keyword. And then you can define in your ESLint RC, even the flat configuration now supported. You can define, okay, I want to have like a constraint. So for example, does it work? Just copy it. If I have something with this tag app, then it only can depend on other projects that have the same, for example, or add more of those. And for example, util or something like this. And actually this, like, it looks really simple and stupid because kinda it is, but this gives you the power to actually enforce the structure you set as a team. And it really forces you to talk to your colleagues and think about how you actually want to envision your whole app. And I think this is like the most important part here. And also it gives you a way to check if still everything is working. So for example, we can kind of, maybe we try to break it just for seeing how it works. I will do something stupid. I will call this E2E. And so now I will use this end-to-end app and add the tag to it. Doesn't have a tag yet. And say this is now an E2E. And, okay, I'm sorry. I should stick to my script. Because if we now, because we don't actually use this here, so it's not importing anything yet, because we don't have anything to export from here. Okay, sorry. So the thing now is, if you want to like organize your project in a way, you need to think about rules for your team that fit your team, and then define them as this configuration. So there's like a common approach that also NX provides. Maybe you can tweak it a little bit for your application. Depends a little bit on how you're envisioning your app, where you're coming from. And they say it's helpful to have like different types of libraries you are going to use, like a feature library, like a data access library, UI libraries, and utility libraries. And you can all assign them to a tag, and then you can configure the way they are allowed to depend on each other. So for example, a feature library would be allowed to import stuff from all those other libraries, while a data library would never be allowed to import something from a UI library. And then you get to this, like the onion diagram we've seen before with the hexagonal architecture. You can exactly enforce this kind of implementing it, and still have all the freedom to move around, yes. And so this would be really the theory, and then now we could start to build this pizza generator. The idea was to have like a list of ingredients we store in our fridge, and then like manage those, and also have like a generator where we can say, okay, I have those ingredients, and now give me an one pizza we could put them on. And also, like, yeah, this would be the idea. But actually, as the pizza is now here, I would propose maybe we take a short break, get some, and then get more into it a little bit more. Yeah, and also, while you are thinking about this, just to mention NX Sheriff, really big recommendation. It is heavily inspired by NX, maintained by Rainer Hahnenkamp of the Angular architects, and it nearly feels like using the NX configuration, but you don't need the whole NX project. So if you have a small Angular or other TypeScript project, you can just put in this small library and it will work in nearly the similar way. Just to make you aware there's this more smaller approach to this. Yes. Yeah, maybe I will skip what we can do. So, okay. Then I would say we do real pizza now. Not open it right now. So I hope it works for you while chewing to listen again. Still, if you see something wrong here, try to correct me now. Would be really helpful. I can, if you have to say something longer, I can try to repeat it so the people at home can hear it. So the idea is that we try to build like a. I don't think we will be able to finish all this whole project today, but you can do it at home maybe. And I will just try to get you into the groove what this using NX feels like and how you can try to get into this dependency situation here. Okay, so our idea is actually we have like two big features here. One is the fridge and one is the generator, and they are kind of dependent on each other because the generator only can mix the stuff we have in the fridge, and so this would be like the thing now. Oh, this presentation mode. How do you close like this?
Could you increase the font a bit?
Yeah. I'm not really used to this presenter mode. Maybe. Better? No, not really better, huh? Normally it should work, huh?
Control plus.
Yes, yes.
But you can also do Shift or Control to choose the option.
Better? Still not really big, huh?
Looks like the same.
I think it's kind of the maximum we can use here. Huh? It won't let me zoom in any further.
Nice.
Maybe you could grab a seat more closer to the screen. Okay. So we we currently only have one app, and we want to just start with a new app. So we can use the NX CLI, but also our EDA, which if you use the plugin, will provide us, if it works. Why it's not working? Anything wrong? No. Will allow us to generate this stuff. And I will just show you. I really am fond of this because it also helps me not to memorize all the commands, but still it would work. Why it's not working? No magic here, huh? Okay, then I'm really sorry. Maybe, I think I broke it here. Okay, I did some changes which broke everything. Now it should work. Okay. I'm really sorry. And we are up and running.
In VS Code, it just helps to restart the IDE.
Yeah, I actually tried this.
But it's not a problem because of the integrated or standalone one?
No, normally not. I mean, there was something wrong with the package lock was not up to date somehow. Ooh. Then. Oops. Good. When something goes wrong all at once.
Yeah, we had a little accident in the office now. Just beer. Also, it is horrible, but yeah, not that much, but everything is fine.
It didn't even have alcohol in it. Thanks. Yeah, just leave it.
Thanks to the helping hands.
So, when in doubt, there's also like a command to reset the NX daemon, because daemons get angry sometimes. And NX repair. NX.json did some changes. What did it change? So just some formatting. Okay, then maybe we just try it manually, and I have to memorize the commands we are doing. We can check if NX actually is still working with the NX graph command, and it's still showing us the project as it is, correct. Because I don't have a second screen, so I was hoping to get the tooling out of my environment for all the commands. But then I would just look them up in the documentation maybe. Then also you can see how well the documentation is working. So at first, now we want to create a new Angular application, and you can do this really quickly by using this little schematic here. So NX Angular add app. And I will just copy paste it here, and we call it pizza gen. So, and again, like before, it will ask us for our preferences. And I did actually a mistake. Oh, damn. So we now have created a new pizza app, and you actually are free to put it wherever you like. So all the file structures from NX is not, you don't have to follow it, but it's like a pattern to have like apps and libraries, or if you want to publish more packages, like if you are developing some libraries, open source libraries, for example, then you could have just one package folder where you put everything in. And I made a mistake, and I just put it in the root directory, but still it would work. So if we look at NX graph now, and show us all the projects. We now have two apps, they are linked together, and still they work. And we can start them up and say, okay, NX pizza, again, it was called, and I will call it to serve. Pizza serve? Run, sorry. There are different ways to say it. You can say NX run pizza again serve, or you can say NX serve pizza again. And then you see, just like you would love your Angular CLI, it will just use the Angular CLI and boot up the application, and we can see like a default empty app.
Kannst du kurz fragen, Audience, ob mich jeder verstehen kann?
Ah yeah. Can you still hear me at home? Does the microphone work? Yeah, please write to the chat if you cannot hear me or if you can hear me. There was a sound, but I can't read it.
Lagging from time to time.
Lacking.
About the internet connection. I think it's not about the micro, but maybe about the internet connection.
Maybe this is the problem. Okay, but we will, if something's really unclear, please ask, or also, I hope we can upload this later so we can rewatch it a little bit. Okay, so I really hope it will work now because I can't remember how all those. What the heck? Damn, not to swear, but I haven't remembered all the commands from head because you can just look them up in your environment, which would be really helpful right now. Okay, so we have this app here. It just looks still like the one before, and now we want to create our first library. So we again can look up in the documentation how to actually create an Angular library. You can find it in documentation under generators because it's a ready-made generator. And then you can find the documentation for the library one. And there it says you how to scaffold one from the CLI, or if your IDE would allow it. So we use again this schematic here with the name library. We call it something like we want. I would say, okay, we call it now the fridge feature. And we give it, haven't defined tags yet, but I will just go ahead and say, okay, this is maybe of a layer feature. So I'm just saying it, this is like a two-dimensional tag, it's just a string, and NX will just treat it as a string, but it can help you understanding what you are actually meaning with this. So, and I think I also have to provide like a directory where we want to have it. And this would be then in libs and maybe fridge feature. Sorry, I mistyped it here. Fridge feature. And we see an error here because I named it. Okay. Yes, what's going on? Okay. So again, what did we do wrong? The space. So, thanks. And then it asks us what we should have answered before, if we want to have it like in this folder we provide, or if it should derive. What's going on? And we just want to say, because we actually did it, and then you can see what is happening. And also, like if you are comfortable with the Angular CLI, you also know that there's always this dry run option that will provide you with what would have happened if you do it. And actually now it will fail because it says there's already one. No. Oh. Not. So like this. And now it says, because it's already existing. So, and also if these tools of IntelliJ or VS Code or whatever would be working, it will provide you with like a dry run, so you always can check is it right, then you actually can copy out the command and run it just in the CLI. So now we have like our first library, and we can maybe inspect what NX has created for us, like a README, some TypeScript configuration, also some ESLint configuration, and also like this project JSON, which will tell us a little bit about this project. So we can see its name, we can see that it's a lib library type library, and that it has this one tag we provided. And apart from that, it does not do much. It has a target for test and it has a target for lint. It cannot be built because it's just a library. And as a library itself, it will most of the time only have like one barrel file index.ts that will export whatever you need somewhere else. And here we have like, it's like just a normal, if you start anew with the Angular schematics. Maybe this is my node is not. Maybe it will work now. Surprise, at last. So success. So maybe this is really helpful to inspect your workspace you have. So you can see all the feature or the project we have and all the tasks they have, and also see which are supported. And if you just, that's that. Crazy. And now we also have like there's like really practical context stuff. For example, there's like a move command, like a move schematic that will just ask you where you want the PizzaGen library to move, and I want to move it to is it an app? Apps, and it was called PizzaGen. And sorry for the small screen, but if you have good eyes, you can see that whenever I type something, it will provide me with what it would do now with a dry run. And also you can even look up the command it would run. So you can just copy this out and even run it on your own terminal if you want. And I hope it was correct. Let's see. Now it's done. And it just will move everything around for me. Yes. And nice. So our app is now in the right place. Really helpful. So don't be scared to just start, because you always can move stuff around. It's really easy. And how this all is working together, again with the standard technology, it will provide us with those, for the libraries at least, with those path aliases we are used in TypeScript. So often you implement this in your own project for convenience. But here we just say, okay, under this string, you can find this path, and so we can import this everywhere under this name. So it doesn't matter where we actually move it, it will just find the right thing. Keep in mind that if you have configured those your own before, then it might clash. So if you're migrating a project and already have lots of those paths, this can be a really painful job to figure it out again. Because TypeScript only knows one path object. Okay, so we have this pizza thing, and we have like a fridge feature, and we have a pizza feature, and now I will just say, okay, let's use this new component. It can't do anything yet. It's called the lib_fridge feature. And I will go to my app, which is like a really basic app. I will just throw out all the stuff, and I say, okay. So, and we have to, it's red because, this. And also it will say, okay, it's not imported yet, but we just can import it in our app component. Here it is. It's imported via this alias and used as an import. And if we just run this pizza command again, we will now see see anything? Did I? I didn't press save. And before and after. So we have now included our first library here. And now would be like the good point as a team to get together and to discuss how we actually want to work together, how we want to structure our libraries, and say, okay, this is like one domain feature, or do we want to have more? And then here there would be like the different types of library you could define and assign text for them and do this. I don't know if we want to do it now. Maybe we just do like those basics ones in the lint RC. We define a source tag and we call it everything is allowed for everywhere, but we don't want to. We want to have like layer app, and it can only depend on layer feature, maybe, and layer UI, and we define another layer. We say, okay, this is like the feature now. Still, it's all just strings. Is one feature allowed to import another feature? Is this something we want to have? Maybe we start out and then we have this, but actually maybe not. Actually, we want each bounded context to be separated. Or not. It depends on the way you want to structure your app. But this is a discussion we can have now as a team and write it down, and we can see who changed it in the commit history. And in UI is only allowed to import something UI and not something from the app, for example. So while we edit, I will also add like a data because it's really fast to write. For example, if I have some data, then that we should never be allowed to import something from a UI. Also not from a feature, maybe only some utilities or something, but currently nothing. We want our data to be clean, only interact with APIs, for example. And yeah, so we can maybe quickly label our existing project. So our app gets a layer app. It also provided me with recommendations, and the feature is already a feature, and that's it. And maybe we then can decide, okay, for our feature here, we want to display the ingredients that we currently are available in our fridge, and also maybe want to be able to add more. So we need kind of a data layer where we actually decide what is in this fridge, and maybe we quickly will create a new library. It's really that fast. You can just click it together, and then it will scaffold the code, and we'll say, okay, this is now the fridge data, for example. New library, you can look, there are so many options. Can I get this away? View, and full screen at least, a little bit better. So we see now it looks like it will create it in the libs library, and also it will create a component, but we don't want that, so maybe there's an option for that. We don't want any routing, show all options. Really hard to read that small. But there's actually an option for this. We don't want any modules, for example, and we don't want any standalone component. So we will just create like an empty library. It will consist of the README, the project JSON, TypeScript config, and an index file, and a little bit for testing. But that's all. Dry run, but I can just generate it. And now we have the fridge data feature, and also we can assign this layer data. And here you also now, with the IDE working properly, you can see I just can run like the tests from here, run and see the result, but still I could run it from the CLI. And also, one feature I haven't showed you yet, the caching we were talking about. So it ran through, it took 1 second, quite long, but for no tests, but okay. And if I run it again, it will be even faster, because only some milliseconds, because it just used the cache. So this is something that NX gives us, and this is like what they always advertise on, that you can as a team share the same cache. So if you have hundreds of libraries and you touch something in one, you can inspect the dependency graph, and then NX can figure out what actually needs to be rerun. So if, for example, I change something in one library, then all apps that import this library need to be rechecked or rebuilt or whatever the current thing you are working on. Also, there's like this thing here where you can see the commands again, provided with the plugin. And also, because this is something really tedious to always have like, okay, for lint, I want to execute the lint plugin. Actually, since the last NX version, you even can delete it for most of them, where you have like real plugin, and still it will work because it is able to infer that this is working because it's clever now and can see that you have like an ESLint config here lying. This is the Project Crystals the NX people are talking about now. So there will be a great way to get rid of all those stuff now. Quite new. And okay. So we were about to create a new data store. Huh? And maybe I will shorten it and say, okay, I just have like, I want to export const. I'm doing something. Normally I would implement a service here now that connects to the database, to the backend services, fetches the ingredient we want to show, but I will just skip it and say, okay, it's my ingredient API or whatever, and it's just a list, and I will give it some names. For example, what goes on pizza? Ananas. I also, eggs are also very famous on pizza, and broccoli. So this is like exported from this data library, and if I try to import it in my feature, where I would normally do this, here in the file, I can just ingredients, and it will import it with this, and now it says something. A project tag with layer feature can only depend on tags with layer UI. And now my IDE marks it as red, but also if I would run lint thing, and I also can NX run many lint. Run many. It should. What's NX? With T. You have to be explicit. This is like a target here. And now it will go through all my apps and or the projects. So actually, we also have quite some of them now, and check if they need to be linted. And if I rerun it, it will be really fast. And if I only change something here, in this one, this was the data, the fridge data lint, and now I run this command, and again it will, something's now not working. Interesting. And it will check again, not the ng app, not this one because I didn't change it, but it will change, it will end here, and here we also get a error now because the error we also see here. So this could be like a build breaker, and your CI could get red now. Yeah. And you know your team is not working the way it is supposed to work. So to fix that, again, we misconfigured here that our feature only can depend on layer UI. And maybe we can say, okay, this is the role of something we call feature here. Whatever this means, up to your team, you can say, okay, this feature will be, in my version, holding together the data from here and the UI from there, putting it all together just for one feature. So now it should get, the linting error should disappear, and great, it's there, and everything is working now. So looking at the time, I would say that's more or less that.